the California Assembly's Bill 495. This is a radical piece of legislation that would ultimately undermine parental rights and literally create an alarming risk of child abduction and exploitation. And last week, while we were talking about this, we mentioned how HB 495 was moved to suspension after a hearing by the Senate Appropriations Committee. Well, this Friday is the suspense file hearing. So what is the likelihood that AB 495 will be moved off the suspense file and actually go to the Senate for a vote? Well, joining me now with all the latest on this horrible piece of legislation is Jonathan Keller. He's the president and CEO of California Family Council. Jonathan, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Jody, always good to be with you and the Washington Watch community. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's an honor, and thank you for all that you do out there. You've got your plate full in California these days. All right, for those who may not be familiar, I gave a little introduction there of AB 495, but start off giving us a little bit further, more of an overview of it, and what is both its intent and the potential consequences.
Well, let me back up and first say that this is a bill that is really controversial. It's gotten more press than we've seen on almost any legislation in the last 10 years, frankly. The level of interest and concern over this is really unprecedented. And I think the reason is, Jody, a lot of times bills that we deal with, whether it's abortion or transgenderism or different things, they are kind of out there. They're dealing with the world. They're dealing with threats that might come to our family ideologically. But this is something that's happening really practically. This is something that really could affect every single mom and dad, grandpa and grandma in the state of California, because it could affect every single child in the state of California. And let me back up and say the best case scenario for this bill is that you would have a family that is somehow caught up in the immigration controversy that our country is dealing with right now. Tragically, because of President Biden's lack of following the law over the last 4 years, we had literally millions of families come into this country breaking the law and thinking that there were going to be no consequences and no repercussions. Well, thankfully, President Trump is dealing with that. He is shutting down the border. He is working to deport people who are here illegally and who may have committed crimes. Now, Jody, the tragedy is that in some cases there are innocent children that have been caught up in all of this. They've come across the border with their parents, and they maybe are completely innocent. They might be kindergartners, junior hires, or anywhere in between. And the best case for this bill, AB 495, would be it would provide a expedited way for those children to be placed with a family member or a close family friend. The problem is this bill does not have any sort of a limiting principle. Not only does it allow the parents of an illegal immigrant child to pick them up from a school, it allows the parents, or the family or non-family members of any child, not just an illegal immigrant child, but any child could be picked up from school by this bill. You do not have to have a parental signature. You do not have to have parental notification or opt-out. And if you have a bad actor, whether it is a relative who disagrees with how you're raising your child and wants to co-opt that parenting authority, or whether it is someone who's totally non-related but has somehow formed a relationship with your child, any of those people could potentially go on campus, pick up a child, and take control of them. Now, there's a question, okay, is it legal custody? Is it full legal custody? No, but the fact that you would be able to even remove the child initially is incredibly troubling. I mean, Jody, you and I know the fact is, if this was happening at churches, if you had a church that was allowing kids to be picked up by just any person from the nursery or any person from Sunday school, there would be outrage. And yet, because this is being authorized by the state of California, a lot of the media is more than willing to try to whitewash the concerns about this.
Unbelievable. All right, so there was a big rally last week, made big waves. You spoke there. What do you say to the claims that churches, this whole issue is too political for churches to engage in? We've only got a little over a minute here.
Well, I will say, first off, it was such a blessing to be at that rally. I know a good friend of yours and a good friend of Tony's and the whole FRC family. Pastor Jack Hibbs was the one who organized that rally and brought all of us to Sacramento. I know also you're very familiar with our good friends Karen England from Capital Resource Institute, Gina Gleason from Real Impact. It was such a blessing to be with them out there on the steps of the Capitol. And I think if you go back and watch that rally, I would urge you, this is not too political. Do not ever let anyone tell you that protecting your own children, protecting the children in your community is too political. I mean, that is one of the most fundamental things that Jesus calls us to do, is to let the little children come unto him. And one of the best ways we can do that is by protecting them from those who would capture them or coerce them into not following their parents and to not learning about Jesus.
All right, just almost just a yes/no answer. Is anything going to be able to stop this legislation from advancing?
Well, I would say never. I know that we have our governor, Gavin Newsom, I think is interested in being president. I don't think there's any way he becomes president or even runs for president if this bill is signed. So pray that he vetoes this.
I agree with you on that. Thank you, Jonathan Keller, President and CEO of California Family Council. Appreciate you coming on and breaking this down for us.